What if the worst parts of you weren't yours to begin with? What if they were just the parts your childhood had nowhere to put? Jung called it the shadow. Psychologists call it the repressed self, but I want you to think of it differently. Think of it as a room in your house that everyone agreed, without ever saying it out loud, was never to be opened. And inside that room, all the parts of you that were deemed unacceptable, the rage you weren't allowed to feel, the jealousy you were told made you ugly, the desire to hurt someone who hurt you, the urge to disappear when everything became too much, the secret satisfaction when someone finally failed. These aren't abstract concepts. You know exactly what I'm talking about, because you've spent your entire life pretending that room doesn't exist. But here's what nobody told you. The question isn't why you have these parts. The question is who decided they were the enemy. This story starts in childhood, because that's where every shadow begins. When you were young, you learned very quickly which emotions were acceptable and which ones got you in trouble. Which parts of you earned love and which parts made love feel conditional. You cried too much? Stop being so dramatic. You got angry? We don't act like that in this house. You felt jealous of a sibling? You should be happy for them, not bitter. You wanted attention? Stop being so needy. And so you learned. You learned that love wasn't guaranteed, it was earned. By being good. By being easy. By hiding the parts that made people uncomfortable. Shame became the tool. Not explicit shame, usually. Just the quiet kind. The kind that comes from a parent's disappointed look. Shame is very efficient. It doesn't destroy the parts of you it can't accept. It just builds a wall and tells you to act like that room doesn't exist. And so you split. Into the self you show, the acceptable one, the lovable one, and the self you bury. The one that carries everything you were told was wrong. If you've ever felt like you're performing a version of yourself, subscribe and comment. What emotion were you taught to hide first? So what happens to the room that's never opened? Does it just disappear? No, it comes out sideways. In ways you don't recognize. 1. Projection. You start hating in others what you've buried in yourself. You don't hate them. You hate the mirror. 2. People-pleasing followed by sudden explosions of rage. You're fine until you're not. And suddenly you're screaming over something small. 3. Perfectionism. If I'm perfect enough, maybe the shadow will stay quiet. Spoiler, it won't. 4. Emotional numbness. When you lock out the darkness, you also lock out the light. You end up feeling flat. Shadow work is not about welcoming your cruelty. It's about asking, what was this trying to protect? The rage you feel? That's a boundary that was violated repeatedly until rage was the only language left. These aren't monsters, they're messengers. And they've been knocking on that door for years. Tonight, name one trait you've been ashamed of. The thing you'd never admit out loud. Now ask yourself, when did I first learn this was unacceptable? What moment taught you that this part of you wasn't allowed? And then say this out loud. This part of me was trying to survive. Not thrive. Survive. The work isn't to fix the shadow. It's to stop pretending the room doesn't exist and finally, gently open the door, not to let the darkness consume you, but to see what it's been trying to tell you all these years. You just have to be willing to be seen.